in a way of him seeing his child. So it's going to really hurt the child. So we try to tell mom and try to educate them to understand that, you know, kind of put your feelings aside and think about your child and don't stand in the way of him to seeing his own flesh and blood, which you have a right to.
And that is a problem that we see very often in court. Whenever there's an issue of why dad is not paying child support, one of the things that he will say is, why should I pay child support? She won't let me see the child. It's almost an instinctive thing. Now the clerk already knows to go ahead and provide the information, because one of the things that a lot of people don't understand whenever they come into court is that there is a difference between the child support order and a child custody order. And so the paperwork that the clerk will hand or have the deputy hand to the father or the person who doesn't have custody of the child is the paperwork to go and file for custody. And one of the things that we discuss sometimes is that custody doesn't just mean that you want the child solely for yourself. Custody can mean visitation. It may mean that you're going to be able to see the child every other weekend. It may mean that every other week. There's a wide array of possibilities there, but the thing is making sure that they understand that those possibilities are there. And then we can see what will happen if the father is serious. If he really wants to be in that child's life, here is the opportunity. Don't get discouraged right now.
I'd like to switch gears a little bit from talking about those who are coming through the court system to just single dads out there. How can they spend more time with their children and be more connected with and involved with their children? Is there a need for that, Glenn?
That's a great need for that. I mean, fathers are, in my opinion, one of the most important things in a child's life. I mean, just apart from the mom. And when kids begin to see that their father are involved in their lives, they do better in school. You know, when little girls know that their father is in life, when guys come to talk to the little girls, they see the father there and they kind of back away because you got to change my game plan if the father's involved. You know, I can't, you know, same thing with the boys. When the father's not involved, they get anger and all these things. So there's a lot of single fathers out there, and I believe, and I think the fathers are doing a good job. It can increase. We need a lot more fathers out there to get involved in their kids. But I think for the most part, fathers are stepping up to the plate, and that is a good thing. Sometimes it's not portrayed and whatever media, but it's not always the case. There are a lot of fathers that's involved.
And there are studies I've actually come across that say that African American men who are in the home with children spend more time with their children than their white counterparts. But we never hear that. We don't see that.
Right. For whatever reason, we don't. And you get this picture that all African American fathers are out doing everything but taking care of their kids. That is not a true picture. That really is not a true picture of the African American men. So one of the things we try to do is bring our men together with the fathers who are part of our program and the other guys in the community, and we bring them all together. And you don't know who's part of our program and who's not. We just fathers who's taking care of our kids, and that kind of rubs off, you know, on the guys who's not necessarily doing what they should be doing. They kind of hang out with the guys who are, and that creates the synergy that we need to start building this sense of ownership for our kids, I think.
What would you like to see, Judge Rozier, in your courtroom and in society in general, where African American dads would actually be elevated or to take them to the next level in getting their needs met so that they can be better dads?
Right now, just across the board, it seems like jobs. Jobs is a continued problem. Jobs and maybe a way of trying to deal with prior records. The way that the prior criminal records, the way that we have it right now in North Carolina, and what we see consistently is that because you're considered an adult at the age of 18, we have a number of people who are 16 and 17-year-olds who are getting criminal records. They go out, and after they have that criminal record, they can't get a job. And so, for better or for worse, decisions and mistakes are being made where they go out and they commit another offense, whether it be because they can't get a job and they try to go out in the street corner and sell drugs, or whether they have ample time on their hands because they don't have a job and they go out and get involved with some other criminal activity. The bottom line is they end up with criminal records and they can't get jobs. They end up with these criminal records and there is just an avalanche or a domino effect that takes place. If they're in prison, they can't be around the child that they may have fathered right before they went into prison. So whenever they get out, they haven't been around the child. Mom has a new boyfriend. Mom may just not want dad around. And all the while, this person cannot get a job. And that's just for people that we see in the court system. And then if you just look at statistics nationally, we have a higher unemployment rate in the African-American community than we do in other communities. So if we can figure out a way to go about making sure that people have jobs, then instead of having to come into the court system where we're ordering them to go to Fathers Forever, they're out paying for attorneys to try to get custody of their children or try to get visitation.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about how Fathers Forever is funded and how someone can participate, if they can, without a court order.
Primarily, right now, we basically do the court order, but we also want to open it up to who guys who want to come. We get phone calls all the time saying guys who are not part of the program, maybe they're headed that way, and they want to come and be a part of our program. Because we are limited in our funding now, we can't really take them because Judge Rozier and Judge Christian Ruth and Judge Cassidy keep us so busy, which I love. But eventually we want to be able to get funding that we can accept anybody who wants to come and be a part of our program. I often use an illustration of a pitcher of water that we have on a table, and the pitcher falls over and the water spills. And we're all on the floor mopping up the water. We're on the table mopping up the water, but we forgot to stand the pitcher back up. And the water keeps spilling. And the programs that we don't have, there's not a lot of father programs. The fathers are the program. Those are the money we need to stand the pitcher back up. And if we get those fathers involved, stand the pitcher back up, there's less water we have to clean out the floor, which is,
point.
The Blessed Kids program. Because we need funding now to help these guys get their license and get those things that they need to do to be the better dad that they want to be.
Well, we hope that funding comes through, and I'd like to thank you, Glen Warren, and also Vince Rozier for coming in today. For information about today's discussion, visit us online at unctv.org/BIF. You'll find links to email us your comments and also join us as fans of BIF on Facebook, or you can call us on the BIF line at 919-549-7167. Be sure to meet us right back here each Sunday afternoon at 4:30. For Black Issues Forum, I'm Deborah Holt-Noel. Thank you for spending your time with us.
Quality public television is made possible through the financial contributions of viewers like you, who invite you to join them in supporting UNC-TV.